Hey girls, how are you doing? I had inspiration to share something with you that, the messages that I received today based on certain people I've talked to. And I think one of the most important messages was that I have gotten so clear on like a very specific aspect of how I can help you and how I can serve you, right? So today I spoke to someone on the phone for a boudoir session, right? And she has shared with me that one of the reasons why she wanted to do boudoir session was because, let me get the music a little lower because it's a little bit in my face here, right? Actually, I'm going to turn this off completely. Anyway. So one of the reasons why she really wanted to do a boudoir session was because she felt that she wasn't being seen. By her husband in particular, she shared with me they've been together for 20 years and, they're almost like roommates. He does not pay a lot of attention to her. She shared with me that she used to have a lot of weight and she worked really hard on getting that weight off, and he did not even notice. Like her words, she said he would look at other girls and would notice their progress and would notice and make comments, but in her, she worked so hard on losing that weight, and she's so proud of herself, but he would not even notice. And so that has gotten me thinking, what are certain things that you girls, first of all, how many of us around here in our community or out there, period, that are experiencing the lack of attention that we actually deserve, right? Experiencing almost we are not being seen. And so I started thinking in that kind of aspect about why is that we get so complacent in relationship that we take things for granted, right? We stop seeing the magic, the beauty in another person that we used to see back in the days when we started dating them, right? We saw them for the goodness. We saw we admired them for the qualities and the kindness and the heart and the skills. All of those things came together for us, and we just that's called love. We fell in love with that person, right? But over the years, because we got not only so complacent, there's never a perfect person. We all know that. There's never a perfect human being. We all have our good moments and good sides and the things that we are good, but we also have the ugly sides and certain things that we're not that good, and we can be kind, but at the same time, if you piss us off, we'll show you the ugly side. So it's called life. There's all of the things, they are in us. And so we tend to start focusing on all of the not so good things in another person, and we lose that admiration or the feeling of love. And in a lot of times, our paths are starting to kind of go apart, right? And when they go apart way too far, we feel why are we even together? We don't belong. We don't have the same interests anymore. Why are we together, right? And so then people go their own separate ways, right? I'm not gonna go there, but I really want to kind of talk more about the if you have been married for a while, if you've been with a partner for a while, and you started noticing kind of the feeling, the kind of like you start noticing that he's maybe not paying as much attention to you as he used to, right? What are certain things that has changed, and maybe they're the things that primarily has changed in you, right? So what are the things that has changed in you that he stopped admiring, right? And I came up with the most important things that you need to improve in order to get that back, right? So number one, and we all know it because that's all we are talking about in this group, is self-love. Self-love. Because when you don't love yourself, and self-love is such a vague subject too, like so many different women understand this on different levels. For some, self-love, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get a moment, I'm gonna like hide from my kids, I'm gonna get a bath and grab my salt and rub, like have the time for myself, right? For others, self-love means putting yourself first, right? Setting yourself as a priority, right? Meaning, I am important too. Like, yes, my husband is important. Yes, my kids are important, but I am also important. And so you do go and do things for yourself. You do go get your nails done. You do go get your boudoir session done. Like, it shows in the actions that you take, right? They, like, you prove, like, you almost internally manifesting that it's okay to do things for me. It's okay to spend money on me and not on my family and my kids and other people other than me, right? So it's focusing that attention and that priority on you, right? And how would that translate in the relationship aspect, right? How would that translate in the relationship aspect is that he's going to start understanding that you value yourself enough to spend money on yourself, to go do things yourself, to take time for yourself, to honor yourself, to love yourself, to pamper yourself, that by watching you, he's gonna almost like internally you are creating this energy around you that you are important, and not only for yourself, but he's gonna treat you in the same manner. Like the air around you will be of an air of importance, right? I value myself, and this is how you should treat me, right? That's why, how back in the days when we were young and dumb, right? Like, we didn't know much. We were allowing guys to like say certain things to us, see us in a certain way, and as we grew older, we started valuing ourselves more for so many other things, including life experience, including all of the mistakes that we have made. We became smarter, and it translated into our seeing of ourselves in a much kind of more respectful way, right? Because we now see ourselves smarter, bigger, better, whatnot, right? Like, we have gone through some shit, we have learned from that shit, like, we are so much more grown from it, right? So it works the same way. And that is all of that I call self-love. And it's like vague subject to talk about, but it has little pieces that in the end come together and they all work together, right? So that's your tip number one. You gotta love yourself, and you gotta put yourself first, and you gotta spend time on yourself, like not on yourself, but give yourself that time to spend with you, right? It's not about the kids or husband, it's about you and what's important to you, right? And that leads me to my second tip, and the second tip is having your interests, right? Your hobbies. What is it that you love doing so much that you like, oh my god, like I can like do it for days, and like this is like my hobby, like I I don't need to do, like if that all I did all day every day, like I would be a happy girl, right? Like you need to find that thing, and I know for some of you already have that, and for some of you you're not sure. You are on the path of finding and exploring and learning new things and testing, and some of you just like maybe kind of like finished one hobby and kind of over it already and on the path to discover more. So it is also part of self-discovery that you might be taking, but having that one interest or one area that you are like obsessed about, like for me it may be the spirituality or reading books or like all of that, I'm very much obsessed about and I spend time on it. And by doing that, I growing myself internally, and he sees that and he respects you for having this one thing that you do with passion, right? That's the key word, do with passion. It's not about like having a career that you're so over it with you want to throw up, right? Like it's something about doing with love, with passion, with interest, and like enjoying that for the doing itself, right? Like you might be collecting stamps, I don't know. So like what is it that you're kind of like is your thing that you can always go back to, and you don't need him for that, right? He like if you are in the beginning stages of the relationship, right, he might even be jealous because you spend so much time on your hobby, because it gives you so much joy, so much love, so much validation, like you find yourself in this, right? That's your thing that you want to do for you. Like he almost feels like, oh, you're spending so much time like reading books, what about me, right? That's the beginning relationship, right? When you are in the relationship, it's crucial to have this one thing that you are so like in love with, like you love doing, that's your interest, that like fires you up. Not only it fills you with like so much fire for life, right? So much zest. You're like wake up every morning, you're like so excited, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, So that's tip number 2, because once he sees that, you are not clinging to him, or you're not like, you don't need him for anything else. You are self-sustainable in the way you find your value. Right? In the way you find your value, where he is not giving you that value, right? You don't need him to give you that value, validation. What other words can we find to describe this feeling? He's gonna know that you don't need anyone else but you. You don't need anyone else but you to sustain yourself in this, in life, and be happy. Like you can make yourself happy. You don't need him. He's gonna see that as almost like a level of independence, right, from you, and he's gonna be in awe, or whatever the word, like he's gonna admire you for this, because this is something he can't provide for you, because you only can provide it for yourself, right? So that's number 2, right? Number 3. Oh, that's a hard one. All right, I will tell you the story. And it's not going to be so much, husband-wife story. It will be more of a child and the mom story, right? But it can very easily be translated into husband and wife story, right? So I recently went out with a friend, and she loves her child so much. Like, she's so obsessed. Like, she's babying that little boy. Like, she just in love, right? Like a mom would, right? And she's coming from a place of love, and I completely understand and see that part of her, right? But it also translated into the child almost abusing that part of her by throwing in tantrums. And like at some point he almost went and like started to hit her. And like, this to me, I never in a million years would allow my child to do that to me. He would be cut off like immediately from anything. And like, I'm a very strict mom, right? But let's take this situation where you are allowing them too much out of love, that you almost lost any sense of boundaries. And boundaries is your words. If you are allowing him to use you for so many things, and you're not setting your own boundaries with that person, he's not gonna value you for the lack of boundaries. You might think, oh, I'm too nice and I'm giving too much of my time to that person because I love them, right? But they're just like kids. If you're giving them too much time and too much of your attention, they're gonna think that that's normal, and instead of actually like really valuing you for that, they would start abusing that sense of giving. Like, right, you're a giver, and that's what we women do. Most of us are born to give. Like, it's in our human nature to give, right? And when we give too much, like another point, and I'll get back. I have so many thoughts coming, right? One of my biggest breakthrough happened from the book by Jen Sincero, Either You Are Badass or You're Badass at Making Money, one of those. And in that book, the breakthrough moment for me, besides so many other points, was that everything in this world is about the exchange of energy. Everything, right? Like any sales transaction, any service transaction, like any relationship, the child, like all of that, any interaction with another person is about energy exchange. So an energy exchange only feels right when it's even, right? When it's in balance, right? So if you give a little too much, you feel like you overgave, right? If you took a little too much from that person, you also feel like you abused that person, but does it make you respect that person? No, I don't think so. You may feel a little like a sense of, what's the word? Like pity. You will feel pity for that person, but you'll still take it, because all of us are selfish, and that's our nature, and there's nothing wrong about it. Like, society has taught us to see that as bad, but it's not. Every single person, and the key is we can't fix it. We can't fix it. We always will do what's best for us, right? And that's okay. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's okay to think that the world revolves around us. Totally okay. You have my total permission to not feel guilty about that whatsoever. But back to the energy exchange, right? When the energy exchange is even, that is when, hi Ashton, that is when that is when we feel that the balance is where it needs to be, right? So if you give too much to the person, for example, let's say you are baking cookies and like you went outside on the street, like I don't know why like the stupid example came through, but let's roll with it, right? Like let's say you cooked you did the cookies, you decided like let's go on the street, sell those cookies, get my kids some cash for whatever they want, right? And you feel like you know, if somebody comes in, you only give them that one cookie that they paid for. If they don't pay you for another cookie, you don't give it to them, right? Would it feel weird if like they only paid you for one cookie but you gave them 5, right? It would feel off balance. You feel like you've been abused. You feel dirty, right? Like you feel like you forgave them too much, right? So silly example, but it translates into anything that we do. Anything that we do is this energetic exchange. So if you overgave to your husband or your kids in my earlier example, right? You start feeling that you not being appreciated and you being abused, and your self-worth goes down and your sense of self-value goes down, your sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. That's all we talk about in this group, right? So you have to have your own sense of boundaries, like what is right and what is wrong, like where is that balance for you? And you gotta determine, like, is it okay for him to criticize you for having the weight, right? Is it okay for him to slap you with some negative comments? Like, no, like why would you allow something like that, right? And if he sees you standing up for yourself, he would just shut up. He would never do any, like he would never mention that ever again. He sees your negative reaction, he's gonna keep his tongue bitten, right? Same thing for other people. Like you don't allow them to treat you in a certain way or a certain manner, right? I had this situation with my own mother, right? She used to criticize me all the time for things I did and things I didn't. She made a remark that I gained so much weight, like last year when we traveled in Europe, we traveled together, and she gave me like some remark that I've gained so much weight and I eat all the burgers here in the United States. And it's like, what? Like that hurt. That hurt. But I quickly let her know that has hurt and I don't want to hear that from her ever again. So in that sense, I have set my boundaries that this is not okay to tell me this. This is not okay for this remark. It's not okay. Like I don't take you as a, what's the word? The person of, I don't take you as someone to give me that feedback. I didn't ask you for it, right? You are not the person I listened to. Like I listened to someone else, right? So she understood. She didn't like what I had to say to her, but she understood. But I put her back in place because I don't tolerate that kind of treatment. But man, that comment stayed with me for the next like 3 months. Even now I'm feeling triggered about that. Like seriously, those are the worst. Don't ever allow anyone to treat you like that or tell you certain things or give you negative comments about you or how you look or what you do and that you are not a good housewife or not a good mother or whatnot. Like they're not the people you should listen to, right? So that is what boundaries are. You really allowing people to treat you a certain way. There is certain level of allowance, but there is that stopping point that you determine that it's no longer or not okay to cross, right? That's what boundaries are. You just like set it for yourself and you don't go past that. You don't allow other people to cross that boundary, right? And you are set and very clear and very, very clear, and you let other people know that this is not okay. This is not how you talk to me. This is not what you tell me. This is not the subjects that we discuss with you. This is not, you are not the person of authority for me to listen to your advice that you think you are giving me, right? So those are the three main tips. So let's kind of recapture them again. Number one, you want to have it, and I was kind of talking in the context of we are with this man who used to give us all the attention, and somehow it yes, Victoria, yes, exactly. I was using my mom as an example, but it translates into men as well. It translates into men. And yes, I was kind of about to kind of summarize everything that we've talked about over here. So we have talked about the three things that we cross that we cross or let them cross, that has them lose value in how they see us, right? Does it make sense? So in that sense, when, they used to admire us, and then like this admiration lost, like this is something that I personally talked to a client today on my phone call, like kind of discovering what's the reason for a boudoir session. And she has shared with me that her man has stopped really paying attention or giving her this like admiration or like even care, that like she has worked so much to lose the weight, and he didn't even notice. So she's like, I want to do the fucking boudoir session to show him what he's got, how hot I am, and like almost from that perspective, right? So but beyond the boudoir session, it's more about like the, how do you set your relationship up after 20 years of being together, right? And those are the three things that I want to give you the feedback about, that we tend to kind of wash out, right? Number one, I was talking about having this level of self-love for yourself, and self-love is primarily focusing on yourself and setting the time to do the things you love, to have the shower, do the nails, whatnot, whatever, like go shopping, spend money on yourself, like that. Those are the actionable things that how self-love manifests into, right? But the main definition of self-love that I give it to is being okay with focusing on yourself and giving yourself the attention you deserve, right? Number two, having your passion, your hobby, your interest that you are so obsessed about that you want to just like do for the act of doing, right? That you are so involved and you get so much value and validation from doing that thing that you absolutely love, like you wake up in the morning and you just like glow because you're thinking, I'm about to do that, right, on your weekend, right? So once you're so involved in your passion in something, like it's almost like he feels like you don't need him, because you find that value, that happiness from doing your passion project, right? And he actually starts looking at you differently and admiring you because you're so independent in his eyes, because you're pursuing what you love, right? And number three was setting boundaries. Setting boundaries was huge, because if you don't set boundaries, people will use you and abuse you. And it really is about the energetic exchange and making that energetic balance. And anything in this world is energetic exchange between people. Make that energetic exchange balanced, even. And there is that invisible boundary that you set for yourself where it's okay, and then beyond that point it's not okay. right? But a lot of us want to be nice and like don't want to look like a bitch, by saying no. No, cut the nice girl out. She's only caused troubles, and like you want to stand up for yourself and say no to certain people and say that there is this level, like we can do this, but no more, no more. There is a certain level to which you allow or give to people, and from other point, like there's something else needs to, like, I don't know, in relationship, like you only allow certain, like and I was talking about mainly like how many negative comments like that fucking sucks, girls. Like that sucks. Like how many of you allowing negative comments from your man? Like no, absolutely no. Like my mom used to do that. Like my husband never did that to me, and to me it wasn't in my realm. But my dad did that to my mom. So maybe that's why my mom did that to me, because in her world that was okay. So negative comments is my biggest because they affect us on such a deeper level. We are like left with that feeling of like unworthiness, validation, like, oh, you think I'm not a good housewife, or like you think I'm like not taking care of the kids enough, and like whatnot, right? All right, girls, I'm ready to read your messages. Let me see. Victoria is the one talking to me. Yes, Jennifer, I'm happy to do this message. I felt inspired. Yep, care about yourself first and they will follow. Right? Because what's gonna happen if you're like having this clingy energy around them, it's like every time you're trying to cling to someone, it's kind of like, oh, get off me, I don't like it, like leave me alone, right? Like, but by the way, I heard a really good example about that the other day. You know how dogs like have the ball and they try to like, hey, like I got the ball, play with me, and you try to catch the dog, and like the dog runs away. But like when you lay down on the floor, kind of like ignoring the dog comes up to you and gives you the ball. Same idea here, right? Like when you start focusing on your thing, kind of pretending you're ignoring or whatnot, like they will come to you themselves, right? So let's see. I just got a message from a friend with all her husband negative comments. Yes, that is it. Like, no negative comments, especially from closest people in your house. Like, your husband is your wall, your support. Like, he is not fucking allowed to give you any negative comments. And if he does, you need to have a conversation. There's further kind of like work that needs to happen to kind of establish those expectations and like what is okay, what is not okay to say, maybe say it in a different way. So there's so many things, and it really all comes back from the time and from the way we were raised in our families and how our parents interacted. So it's so huge, girls. It's insane. It's so huge. So really comes down to how we were raised and they were raised, and if their parents, they had lots of fights when the kids were being like brought up, right? It will on some level will translate into the current family, right? So for me though, like I was able, like, first of all, we've been together for like close to 14 years, and my husband's family had apparently such a better relationship that he came from a better environment, like marriage environment, right? And I was so amazed about how he was treating me. I could not believe, because that's not how it was in my family. And when, like, now I'm almost like spoiled, right? Like, but it's not really. That's how it's supposed to be, because it wasn't at all. And I was so always wondering, how did I get so lucky to have my husband who is treating me in the way that he's treating me? We never have a fight, never. Like, that's unheard of. Me, like, I'm the most, like, blowing up person in the world. Like, put me with anyone else, I'm gonna have insane fights. We never. He's, like, just, we really, like, fit as a puzzle together. Like, he takes the hit, you know? Like, when I'm that, like, when I'm in my explosive modes, right? So, anyway, let's see. Lisa says, yes, that's true. Know your feminine energy. Feminine energy is another subject, totally going there another time. That's like huge, right? But feminine, like, every woman has both combination of masculine and feminine. And, though, out of those 3 tips that I gave you today, right? Loving yourself is manifestation of feminine energy. Having your passion project, right, is manifestation of your creative feminine energy, while setting boundaries is manifestation of your masculine energy, right? Masculine energy, you have to put your kind of you set your very own boundaries. You have to, like, masculine energy is very structural, very linear, it's very strategic. So building boundaries is part of that. And you can't be a full, complete woman without having both masculine and feminine in balance. So it's really about balancing. You never will be able to just be in your feminine. Like, that's just not how the world was created or works, right? It's always a balance about both. All right, my ladies, love you all. Thank you for coming to see me tonight. And I was very inspired to talk to you today. So I hope I'll see you tomorrow or maybe another day, but I'll be here soon. Thank you. Mwah.